The crystal chandelier above the dining table had barely stopped swaying when everyone heard the sharp scrape of a chair against the marble floor. Valentina Cross had just lowered herself into the most honored seat at the table, the chair that had belonged to her husband's late wife, the chair nobody in the family had touched since the funeral. She smiled as though she had every right to be there, smoothing the fabric of her ivory dress while the room fell strangely silent. Across the table, 19-year-old Mara Bennett froze with a serving spoon in her hand. But before anyone could speak, an 82-year-old woman slowly rose from her chair at the head of the table, her silver hair perfectly arranged, her trembling hand gripping the edge for support. Everyone expected Grandma Beatrice to remain silent, as she had done through months of family tension. Instead, her voice cut through the room with startling strength. "Get up." Valentina's smile disappeared. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that every person deserves to be treated with dignity, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs a little hope, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories like this to people around the world. Mara had never imagined that one chair could carry so much pain. Her mother, Elise, had died 8 months earlier after a long illness, leaving behind a family that looked perfect from the outside but was quietly falling apart. Elise had been the person who remembered everyone's birthdays, brought soup when someone was sick, and made sure Mara never felt alone. Her father, Gideon, had struggled terribly after losing her. For months, the house had remained almost untouched. Elise's book stayed on the nightstand, her favorite blue mug remained beside the kitchen sink, and the chair at the dining table became almost sacred. Then Valentina entered their lives. She was beautiful, confident, sophisticated, and completely comfortable around wealth. At first, Mara tried to accept her because she could see how lonely her father was. But slowly, Valentina began replacing things that belonged to Elise. She changed the curtains, rearranged the photographs, boxed up her mother's belongings, and eventually started referring to Elise's old dining chair as just furniture. That evening was supposed to be a celebration. Gideon had invited the family to announce an important business decision, and Valentina had dressed as though she were already the lady of the house. Mara arrived late from college and stopped in the doorway when she saw Valentina sitting in her mother's chair. She felt something inside her collapse. She wanted to protest, but she remembered all the arguments that had happened since her mother's death. Every time Mara defended Elise's memory, Valentina accused her of refusing to move forward. Gideon usually stayed quiet, caught between grief and his desire for peace. So Mara swallowed her anger and quietly moved toward the kitchen. Then Beatrice stood. Her voice was firm enough to make every conversation stop. Valentina slowly looked up, clearly expecting Gideon to defend her. Instead, the room remained silent. Beatrice pointed toward the chair and repeated that she should get up. Valentina laughed nervously and asked whether the family was seriously going to make an issue out of a chair. Beatrice answered that it was never about the chair. It was about what the chair represented. Elise had spent 26 years sitting there, feeding her family, listening to their problems, celebrating their victories, and comforting them through their worst nights. Beatrice said that grief did not mean a family had to erase someone simply because their absence was uncomfortable. Gideon lowered his eyes. For the first time that evening, Mara saw tears gathering in her father's eyes. Beatrice then revealed something nobody expected. She had discovered that Valentina had secretly pressured Gideon to sell the house and move away within the year. She had also learned that several of Elise's belongings had already been sent to storage without Mara's knowledge. Valentina tried to explain that she was simply helping Gideon start over, but Beatrice stopped her. She said starting over did not require destroying everything that came before. Mara expected her father to remain silent. Instead, Gideon stood and admitted that he had been afraid. He had convinced himself that replacing memories would make the pain disappear, but all he had done was make his daughter feel like she had lost both parents at once. He apologized to Mara, and those words finally broke the wall she had built around herself. She walked toward him, and after months of distance, father and daughter embraced beside the table where so many family memories had been made. Valentina quietly stood from the chair. For a moment, she looked less like the confident woman who had entered the house months earlier and more like someone realizing she had mistaken control for belonging. She left that evening without another argument. Gideon did not chase her. The following morning, something beautiful happened. Gideon opened the storage room and brought Elisa's boxes back into the house. Mara helped him arrange the photographs. Beatrice placed fresh flowers beside the old dining chair, and nobody sat in it. Not because Elise still owned a piece of furniture, but because the family finally understood that remembering someone was not the same as refusing to heal. Weeks later, Gideon repaired the chair and invited everyone to dinner. This time, Mara sat beside her father, and Beatrice smiled from the head of the table. The empty chair remained between them, holding a simple bouquet of Elisa's favorite flowers. Nobody spoke about replacing Elise anymore. They spoke about carrying her love forward. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who understands the pain of losing someone you love, and subscribe to Kindness Corner for more stories about forgiveness, courage, and second chances. And before we end, leave this special comment below: love should never require us to forget. Sometimes the strongest families are not the ones without broken hearts, but the ones willing to sit together and help each other heal. Beatrice taught them that night that a chair can be replaced, a house can be changed, and life can begin again, but love should never be erased just to make someone else comfortable.